Hello and welcome to a very special episode of UKVersus because we're back from the first ever live MHA Nationals. Last year was webcam based, and I'm on the wrong Discord thing, so you can't actually see anyone. I do apologise.
Oh, no, again.
There we go. We are joined by Richard, National Team Champion Plumber. We are joined by the voice of Harry and
Hello.
Gazza, Pad One of Richard. I of
Hello.
course
Hello.
Of course, and Brett does not respect Deadlock Pendragon. And let's start off with how you guys feeling after the long weekend.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a fun weekend. Obviously, didn't do as well as I liked. Um, ended up going 4-3 with Fire Tokiyami. Um, so what just thinking about round. So round one, beat up on Overhaul. Round two, got paired into Philip on Giro, and he won the dice roll, so he won that one. Round three, I beat a Nejire, sideboarding into a Chaco 2.
Ooh.
Round four was my stream match, which was fun against obviously Monoma and Nathan. Nathan's obviously really cool, really great guy, and I'm very glad I won, or else I'd never be able to live it down. The next round I got paired up against Adam as Nomu, and that's like a terrible matchup. And he was even so rude as to build like learning standards both games. So yeah, lost that one. Then had a heartbreaker against Greg the next round because it was a case of whoever won, not the other one out. And then, yeah, game three, I went Ruin, Shadow, Azure, Shadow, Ruin, Shadow, Ice Storm. And I don't think there's any character or player that can deal with that. Um, yeah, so that was horrible to knock a friend out. And then the last round, my sort of winning in was against Grant on Overhaul, and my deck just imploded and didn't do anything. And like I think I hit on like one or two of my top fives out of five or six. And just sometimes that's what Fire Tokiyami does. He just craps on himself, and obviously Grant's one of the best players in the room, and he's playing one of the best decks in the room. So yeah, lost
Yeah.
that one and get there.
It's one of the
But
things. It's like those times you need to remember what Patrick Stewart said in Star Trek Next Generation. It is possible to do nothing wrong and still lose. That is not
yeah,
weakness. That is life.
yeah.
Oh,
But like, I don't really regret my deck choice. Obviously, I audibled from good Giro, but I think Fire Tokiyami is good into Overhaul. Is probably reasonable into Mirio, despite not facing one, just because again I could race it. Um, I'd imagine it's pretty good against the race ahead. Just again because you could just punch them on two, and against the field, again most things you can just punch in the face. Obviously, it's got a bad naming matchup, but that isn't like a huge percentage of the field, so I felt reasonable about my deck choice. I think it's still a really, really good deck. It's just sometimes it has those inconsistent draws.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
And I think decks like yours are why most overhauls were siding Nomu just to in case they came across that aggressive aggro that they weren't built to handle very quickly.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Harry,
mean that was a really cool
yeah,
event. Like all my opponents were lovely. Um, and yeah, like if my three losses are against Philip, Grant, and Adam, like can't I
no,
can't be upset about that, to be honest.
you can't losing to an hourly champion, a world ranked player, and Adam of the Dobbers, who is a top tier player in himself, even if he isn't as well known as the other two.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Uh, Gaza, how did you find your first in person nationals?
yeah, it was good. Obviously, I played slightly off meta character. Played Tabe, which was good fun. I probably practiced against Mirio overhauls and stuff the most, and I had no problem in those games. And Nomu as well. So I pretty much won or drew all of those games. It was just the characters I've never seen before. Like Amajiki, I should have done well against, but I just couldn't pull my insatiable appetite to save my life. They're at the bottom of my deck, so there was no momentum eating for me. I could only get one food out on the two games I played, so yeah, they were somewhere hiding. So maybe I should have sideboarded my Mimicry, just so when it went to discard pile, I could have like got my food. But that's one thing to think about for the future. Yeah, that's pretty much it really. And the Shigaraki too. I wasn't expecting it to do so well, so I kind of Yeah, because we've basically got a friend that plays it, and nowhere near the level of it was Declan, who's a really nice guy.
Oh, he was
So I
Shiggy
just
Oh,
one, wasn't
Shiggy
it?
one. I was going to say,
Shiggy one, sorry, yeah, Shiggy one,
Shiggy.
yeah,
If there was a Shiggy two there, I know one person who would have been immediately after this. But yeah, Declan. Yeah,
Shiggy
Declan
one.
Shiggy one.
Yeah. So yeah, but we've got a friend that plays it basically, and he just plays it nowhere near this level. And I was expecting just to run over this kid, and I was like, oh, okay, this would be a nice, easy matchup. Didn't really like my concentration was driven by that point. I've got ADHD, so for me, it's a really long day. Um, the
Yeah, it
first
really is.
Yeah.
first 4 or 5 games, I've got full attention span. I can pay attention to what people are doing. I think like my fifth game was against Declan with his Shig. I was expecting to be our friend who plays it sort of level. I just lost all my attention span, and all of a sudden, all of my foundations being eaten and destroyed, and I can't get enough foundations down to build my sort of like I need to get like 3 or 4 attack strings like the tongue whips and stuff like that to make Tebe. So yeah, so there's definitely things to think about. But yeah, it's a really long day. But everyone was really nice. There was only one person I had a bit of a problem with, but it's just because obviously it's a hyper sweaty sort of competitive nature that people are obviously trying to win any way they can really. So that's about it
Ah.
really. Yeah.
See, my experience is the opposite of that. I don't know whether it's because I was more in the because it was mid tables and stuff like that, but every person I came across, as long as you were okay letting them take back uh, little mistakes, they were okay with you taking them out. As long as you weren't like being asked with them, they were fine. I didn't really come across anyone until we were in the top cuts where every decision matters. Who were like, "Oh no, we're past that step, or we're past that response. You can't do it. Take it back."
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
as I said,
think.
there was only one person. It was just one
Okay,
person.
yeah,
So everyone else was super nice, and I was like remind them like I played Steve, who I know well through Richard, and he made basically I froze one of his foundations, and he tapped it, and it wasn't until my next turn, not my next turn, my next card, I was like, you don't have to tap that. I only froze it. It was you don't need to tap it when I freeze it. And he goes, no, you do. And I said, no, honestly, this is one of the things I've asked Richard about and things like that. I said, look, do you want to just untap it? We call a judge over, and he's like, he goes, no, I'm pretty sure you have to tap it. So we called Murray over and said, look, this is how I thought throws work. He doesn't have to tap it, right? He's like, yeah, you don't have to tap it, Steve. And so Steve was like, oh, okay, and untapped it. So, I could have just let it slide and just like, because it only advantages me, right?
yeah,
Freezing him and tapping it, but I was just honest about it, and so most people I played with, they saw me like, for instance, I did a lot of breakers in my stuff, so I'd say, right, this card's got breaker, but because I didn't say like breaker after the card, I just said like this has got breaker 2, checked it, and then because I didn't then say respond breaker 2, a few people like, did you mean to say respond breaker 2 after you checked it? And I was
yeah.
like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just like that kind of thing, but you know what. A lot of people are like, okay, I know what you mean. You've said breaker 2 before you've played the card. Here you go, blah blah blah. So a lot of people know, but there was just one person had a bit of an issue with, and it was resolved and shook hands and things like that. But yeah, yeah, we were kind of both in the wrong in a bit. I was wrong because I got tilted by it and just called him names, and he just blatantly lied. So yeah, just kind of got a
Oh,
bit frustrating.
yeah. And Harry was there but wasn't playing. Did you say, Richard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
just kind of
Yourself, Harry?
yeah, I just kind of turned up. Luckily for me, my girlfriend lives up that neck of the woods anyway, so I was at Patriot from 10 in the morning, even though I wasn't playing. Basically, been a little maid running around getting drinks and coffees for the boys, making sure they're all hydrated and well fed.
Yeah,
And it was honestly, it was just being a new player to the game, it is just really helpful. Just kind of walking around and just seeing what's going on anyway, seeing what characters people are playing, seeing how they're playing it, seeing certain cards that I've not seen before. It was all really helpful actually, and everyone was really willing to answer questions, and everyone was so welcoming as well. So yeah, it was a really nice weekend.
Yeah, I should probably just introduce these guys.
Yeah.
We sort of skipped that bit, right?
So-
So Gary and Harry are two of my local play group. So these guys have only been playing like what 2-3 months.
About that,
Yeah, I sort of
Yeah,
basically managed to sort of sucker Gary into the game by getting him to sort of play a PSC to make up the numbers for a qualification for the boy who didn't actually end up going in the end. But and obviously then sort of must have got intrigued by the game and sort of got into it a bit, and then we suckered obviously sorry, introduced like Harry and a couple of other guys locally into the game. So yeah, we've got a good little play group going locally, and we are pretty much, I think, all but one were came up. So there was also Will and Jordan that came up from Hastings.
Oh, that's cool.
And again, everyone did really well. Like, obviously, none of us made top cuts, but for obviously their first nationals, I think you were like, your record was what, 3-2-2, Gary? Was it in the end?
Yeah. 1-3,
Yeah.
drew 2, lost 2.
You were very close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, Will was on Momo. He ended up on 33rd for his first major, playing Momo, which is not an easy deck to play. And like some of his losses were, like one of his losses were against Liam. And I can't remember who his other loss against, but again, I think he went 3-2-2. And then Jordan was playing Mirio, and I imagine he just, I think he's known locally for just constantly checking fives and checking nothing but fives. But I think he had the check threes day, and obviously people will be teching for Mirio. So I think he went 2-2-3 if I'm right, something like that.
Nice.
But again, like it's their first event, so it's not like they've completely scrubbed out. I think everyone acquitted themselves really well.
Exactly. My weekend was a bit longer than yours guys because I turned up on the Wednesday.
Now, here's your window. Get it done.
I might make an entirely separate video about my actual nationals one because I want to go. I've got some like details I want to go into about some of the games, but the big highlight for me was retro. Because
we'll get to the side events, but look, you've got your window now. You got your soapbox. You can talk about what you did, and then we get.
So for those that aren't aware, I had a very good run. Round 1, I was paired into my friend Aaron, the only other person in the room playing Shigaraki 1. He played against both Midnights that in Swiss. He managed to crush the second one because he'd faced mine, so he kind of knew what to expect. But he was on Evil rather than the Declan's Death, and he is one of the top 8 players from last year. He's a very good player. He's been playing Shigaraki on Evil for absolutely ages, and I also helped him the night before add more defense to his deck. I knew what he was doing, but I was able to walk away with a nice victory. That puts me into a Midnight Mirror, which was so it was me and up against Sean. I think Sean Jackson, who was on the other Midnight. I got very lucky against Sean Jackson. He went second, kept a risky hand, only built 3 foundations, and I was able to just build up to 10 and just outpace him because I was going first. And in game 2, he had 2 cards in hand. He'd signaled to me that he had a barrier shield in hand, so I played repeated that was going to be for game, and immediately aggressively petty squabbled to get him to discard 2 cards, and he discarded 2 barrier shields and picked up 2 low blocks and had no other way of drawing. So I managed to get the 2-0 against Sean, but it was great to see another Midnight there. I know he continued to go on to do quite well, but just couldn't quite make tops as well. Then I went up against Grant on stream. Got completely bodied in the first 10 minutes against his overhaul, which was very, very strong in game 1. Game 2 then went on for about 45 minutes of us both just being very defensive and keeping each other alive and keeping ourselves alive until I got the game in with, I think it was 6 minutes left on the round. We both knew that neither of us were going to win it. I did offer him to ID and go for get an early lunch because our timing was a bit different.
Yeah.
And basically lunch had already started by the time we hit our game 3. But Grant wanted to play it out to see if he could do it. And if you go back...
I mean, Overhaul can just turn
Yeah.
to you, right? Overhaul can draw those hands, so I think if you've got 6 minutes, you go for it.
Yeah, we did. It was basically Grant built out, I built out, Grant poked, I blocked, he built out, I built out, and then Grant went in, I stopped it, and then I went in, and I just had, after doing my midnight, I had a handful of red. If I could have passed my last attack, which I couldn't do with only 2 foundations, he'd have been left on 1 after it. which was absolutely hilarious to me. There was it was a brilliant game against Grant. I absolutely loved it. Came out of lunch and I didn't get my lunch. The cafe was so backed up that my lunch arrived during round 4. And fair shout to the judging team. I handed my thing over to him. Do you mind grabbing my lunch? He was like, "Yeah, go on then." Ran off and grabbed my lunch. Round 4, I was up against the Broberg Jose Navarro Eraserhead Death List. I will admit I did not respect it as much as I should have done. I lost game 1 quite quickly. Game 2, I pulled it back a little bit and got the game 2 off a can't escape me negating struggling with studies. And then we went to yeah, it was a really good play. But that kind of like sealed it in for me to get the game. Then the ties started. So I think at that point I was like 3-1, and then I started getting the ties. I went up against Amajiki. I knew Amajiki was a very bad matchup for me. Lots of momentum, lots of damage, lots of throws. It was a
but a lot of Amajiki stuff has a lot of keywords, right?
Yeah.
So if he's playing like Ice Storm, Home Run, like Indiscriminate, these have a lot of keywords.
So the issue with Ice Storm was he only saw them once I was in deadlock, and Ice Storm has the deadlock where the speed can't be reduced. So on Amajiki's kill turn in game 2, he swings it with the 0 gravity lift, has no other gravity lifts in his discard. He's got 1 in momentum, and so I've got 2 confused down. I'm like, if you just had 1, I could fully block this.
Mm-hmm.
So I take half, I block the next attack. He then drops the Ice Storm. First enhance, deadlock enhance. So I go flip confused. This loses the keyword powerful. He then uses every enhance on his foundations to get this damage in. So I decoy it. Plays the next Ice Storm. Immediately deadlock enhanced it to stop the speed being reduced. So I flip the next confused, get rid of powerful. Tank the 4. Learning the standards, drops the foundation, and then goes Death Arm Wallop.
Okay.
Makes the check and then looks at me and goes, "Is that game?" I was like, I look at my hand, look at my board, and go, "We'll play it out." And then he's and this is the Amajiki at the top, so he's sort of looking at me. Okay. He powerfuls it for 14. I respond to it lineage. He then gives it 7 speed. I midnight it back down to printed essentially, and block it. But I do feel quite bad going into this one because it's one of those games that I didn't tell my opponent that he had a trigger he could use, but that's not on me.
No.
Yeah. So
as long as you're not effectively scumming them out of those triggers, you don't have to tell your opponent to press your buttons.
If it was a mandatory trigger, I'm happy with it. But after the tie came down, Apple came up to me and how'd you get on against Jonathan? I went, it was great. It was a very close game. I was dead if he remembered basic training had a deadlock response that triggers when committed. Anyway,
you definitely do not have to point out that they have a deadlock response in basic training.
Yeah, he sort of looks at me and goes, "How many times did you trigger the deadlock on basic training?" Going, "In both games, not once." And he sort of like, "Right, okay, I got to have a word with him." I was like, "Yeah." I wasn't. I did mean to tell him after the match, but I got forgot because I was so happy. But yeah, no. That was the most. When I saw he top 80, that was one of the matches I was most worried about getting paired into. Then I went up against Ben Morton. We had a 57-minute game 1. He built 10 foundations. He built... By the end of the game, he was on about 11 assets. And
he was on Mimic, wasn't he?
He was on Mimic. He only attacked with certain attacks. He always held red guards, so he could omni-block no matter what I was doing. And then, whenever he checked an asset, he'd pick the red guards back up. I literally won because he'd used his triggers early. He used his trigger responses early on, and I had a 15-14 repeated smash that he was one foundation short of blocking.
Okay.
Yeah, so if he'd tapped his assets down to make it 5 damage, but thanks to an earlier half block, he was on exactly... No, thanks to him blowing up trigger to pick up a card, he was then exactly on 5. And it all came down to a judge ruling on how Mimic works. Because Ben wanted to know if he could go attempt the block, tap the asset to try and pass the block, and respond with Mimic because he's tapped the asset. And Murray just went, no, unless you pass the check, you can't respond with Mimic because you've not actually committed anything to pass the check. You can't just...
Yeah, you can't choose to commit stuff.
You can't...
Unless
Yeah.
there's a thing that says it's committed. So you can't commit everything to fail a block, if that makes sense.
You can...
that makes perfect sense.
To put it in a... Yeah, to put it in a magic term, you can't float mana.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if that would have happened, it would come on there, but...
That's not one I would have been absolutely certain of, but it certainly makes sense to me.
Yeah, this is the part. Yeah, he wanted to essentially try and partially pass a check and go, oh, it failed, but I committed an asset for it. And the judges was like, no, you either fully pass a check or you don't pass a check. You don't respond with Mimic until that point. And unfortunately, that meant that he took 5 damage and he died. But it was a hell of a game. And then Ben just looked at me and went, yeah, game 2 is not happening.
Yeah.
After that, I was pretty sure I was in, but I wanted to make sure. I went up against JP of the UA Rejects. Mad respect to JP on his Mirio, mainly because of the googly eyes. I approve googly eyes on cards. But we decided to ID. I was able to get some nice recordings of the final round, which you may have seen at the beginning of the stream.
So you ended up 4 wins, 3 draws, basically.
But yeah, I technically went undefeated the entire Swiss because of 4-0-3, but none of my games were easy. None of them were a wash sort of thing. They all came down to very choice cards in my deck. If I hadn't had Confused in the sideboard, if I hadn't been running Can't Escape Me, like the cards that I kind of like in August was like, yeah, I'm never going to use them. The cards I put back in, I'm going, oh no, these would have been really good. I would not have been able to get myself in a position where there was a lot of weird choices that I made when rebuilding the deck after August that had a huge impact into how I actually played it. Without those cards being down, I was just screwed.
Yeah, I mean, Void has a lot of that, right? Void has a lot of that. Like, you know, those cards you play as a 1 of 2 of kind of defensive techie pieces that, you know, Midnight, you know, fits very well in Midnight because obviously you can just cycle them when you don't need them or draw into them when you do because you're just drawing so many cards.
Yeah, and during my game against Grant, and it's something that Levi's told me he's been saying to a lot of people, when I first initially brought this deck premise up, people were really interested in it on like Levi's Discord and on Sam's Discord, and Levi couldn't really see the potential of what I was trying to do. But when I mentioned to him that basically my first attack repeated on a turn 2 could be an 11-6, he sort of got on board and went, no, this is an actually really interesting use of repeated smash. And the deck sort of came around from that combination. Then, as we all know, after Swiss, we had the giant card giveaway. Someone here legitimately won a giant card.
I did. I got a hood sitting in my front room.
You did. And then, thanks to a bit of emotional manipulation from Sean, because when the top 16 were called out, when it got to me, I was called out as that Dabby guy. And then when Sean was doing the Dabby handout, he literally went, I know someone in the other room who's going to be very disappointed if they don't get this. And luckily the person that won it immediately came over to me going, do you really love this? Something, mate, I would absolutely kill for this. So he just gave it to me. I was like, I don't want to just take it. Come find me tomorrow. You can go for my folder, pick up some cards we've got. Never came and found me, so I don't remember your name, but if Sean gets in touch with me and lets me know who won it, next time I'm at an event, I will throw some cards at you because I do owe you.
Well, you know, obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, it's already framed up on the wall. My HLC jersey and plate I've been taken out. I wanted to get it protected right away until I get a smaller mat. Then we moved on to top cuts.
Yeah.
And it was this is the first time I've top cutted since the new deck list rules. And waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to Reese, my opponent, wanting to have a chat. He apparently been talking to a few people, and actually being able to look at his deck list was so weird. Just being able to look and go, okay, I know what I need to do. I know what's in your deck. I need to be careful. It kind of take away the surprise factor. Because, no offense to former EU champion Nathan James, looking at his list, I think the surprise factor was a huge factor in what got him into second place, because he was running mono low with 2 highs, which on overhaul, which is not something you really expect.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just people are expecting sort of mids and highs, right?
Yeah. It was an excellent choice for Swiss, because everyone's expecting repeated smashes and home comets and all these high attacks to be the killers, and people are aware of maximum overhaul, but how many low blocks are you going to hold against against overhaul? And there's so many on there. So it was a great plan by Nathan James. Unfortunately, when it came to top cut, that plan kind of fell apart, because your opponent can go, oh, I need 2 highs and 20 lows. So as long as I hold low blocks, I'm kind of okay.
Is that the version Nathan was playing?
Yeah,
as well?
That's the version Nathan was playing. He had no hardened jabs, he had no back alleys, he had no calorie counters. It was all lows.
So chop, maximum overhaul,
rapid punches.
Rapid punches, yeah.
I think there might have been some overhead reversals. I didn't look at Nathan's list too much, because I was like, if I come across him in the top 8, I'll deal with that at the time.
It was maximum overhaul, rapid punches, hardened chop, hardened jab, hardened frenzy.
No, I didn't think I saw the jabs. He must be running a couple of mids, but a lot of people will be expecting the back alleys and the calorie counters and a lot of these mids. And then, so I come up against Reese. Unfortunately, Reese had an hour's sleep. He'd been stressing about this matchup the entire night. I still kind of feel bad, because he looked so out of it. But he played a hell of a game. He smacked me down game 2. I had no defense for what he was doing. And then game 3, I was able to just squeak out that win. Unfortunately, denying Reese a chance to go to Orlando. I still kind of feel bad about it, but I'm happy I'm going, is the way to put it. But
that top 16 round's the money shot, right? Like, that's the big one.
That's what everyone was saying. It's a case of, this is the round that matters. The difference between top 8 and top 4 is a box of cards. That is it. But Reese was on Earth Overhaul. Very good list. A lot of it was synergized around Maximum Overhaul. Luckily, I'm teched against it. It's what I was expecting to be coming up with the most. Then it
doesn't have any keywords, does it?
No, it has 0 keywords, and it gains 7. It goes up to 7 speed with its own ability, and allows you to build in and essentially string out longer in your turn.
Well, I mean, you've always got barrier shields on Void. One of the reasons why I think Void's good is got barrier shields.
So the main issue with barrier shield is it's not response speed; it's enhanced speed. So right. It's enhanced. You can't add. Oh, you mean to reduce the speed down?
Yeah.
So
it's blockable.
Yeah, so it's blockable. The main defense against it is can't escape me. You stop the cards getting added to the hand as is, and just stop the ability from giving the speed to begin with. But yeah, it was a good one to go. Reese played it really well. Did some huge beatdown. He's messaged me saying he's thought it over in his head. He's figured out where he went wrong. And I think it's going to be where most people went wrong. He went into deadlock, and that puts a lot of my kill potential online. It makes plummeting punches a lot stronger. I absolutely love plummeting. Plummeting punch and practical studies have been MVP for me this entire weekend. Then after that, game finishes. I look over, and it's surprising pretty much everyone in the room, including himself. Kyle beats Nathan. Kyle went into that game completely thinking he lost. He was going second. The decks are pretty much the exact same, apart from he's running back alley where Nathan isn't. and because I was talking to Cal, and I was like, you need to win this. I don't beat Nathan going second against this kind of overhaul list. Against you, I've got a better matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Kyle pulls it up. Kyle absolutely goes in, pulls it out of nowhere. So I go up against Kyle. Game 1, I take it. Yeah, he went into deadlock. I was able to manipulate my deadlock to get there. Game 2, I lose from a misplay. I play repeated smash. I commit, can't escape me. I give it 7 speed. I send it, and I forget to ready up 2 cards. So, yeah, I could have ready. Basically, So I play my next attack. He gets blocked. I was like, if I'd have had the can't escape me, you weren't blocking this, and I get game. He swings back on the next turn because I'd overextended to get to that point. And game 3, very close. I could have got there, but he could have easily got there. But unfortunately, I pulled it out and move on to top 4. But Kyle, this is his first ever top and it being in nationals. He played a hell of a game. There was a couple of people that wanted him to go on further because him and Liam are cousins, and they wanted to have a cousins final.
Yeah.
But moving on there, and I was up against Philip, world number 2 Jero player on Jero, or RLE winner Luke. I was hoping beyond hope that Jero pulled it out. Barrier shield, can't escape me. I'm teched to deal with Jero's tricks. And I'd be going first. Because I was saying to people, it was like, if he plays double jab pummel, I barrier shield it, he discards 2 cards on my block. Boom. He plays specialized sound waves, he stacks the 6, he stacks the 2, he goes to draw, I cancel it with can't escape me, he's stuck with a 2 on top of his deck. I am teched to take Philip on.
Yeah, and also you can barrier shield the home run comic down, right?
Yeah.
So it's blockable and doesn't do anything.
Okay. And Kyle's in chat. I owe you 2 pints. I know. I thought the repeated smash and the fat gum 2 you pulled in the box I gave you for your first top would have been enough, but apparently I still got to buy you the pints anyway. But yeah, Luke ends up pulling out the victory against Philip, but it was a very good game. And then we have about 2 hours of waiting while Liam is fighting up against... I apologise for this point, I do not remember. I believe it was... Oh no, it was against JP. JP and Liam are going on for so long. It is crazy to see how long that game was going on for. Grant was taken out by Matthew Fontaine. That was a bit of a shock to me, but people, I don't know Matthew, but
he's a really, really nice guy, really cool player. Like he beat me as Tarbe at the last RLE. I didn't play him this weekend, but just sort of tried to stuff. He's really nice and obviously really chuffed to get top 8. So
and that's
congratulations, Matthew.
Yeah, that's something I learned very quickly. People, he's a great player. He's just not that well known, and that's one of the things I was talking about people all weekend was I want more NA players to learn these names that, even more UK players to learn these names that are great names, because if you ask NA players who are the top 5 players in Europe, they're probably going to have the same mixture of the same 7 people. I want that to grow. I want the NA to stop seeing us as, oh yeah, and it's Europe, it doesn't matter, and more, it's Europe, they're weird and they're a threat.
Yeah.
But
going to Philip's still cracked,
Oh yeah. Going to top 4 game, go against Luke. Game 1, he smashes me. Game 2 is about an hour and a half long. I squeak out a victory for him going to 6. I know the commentary team are going to blast me for discarding things like attacks and barrier shield to commit down Excited for Blood, but to me that was the right decision. So Luke was on 7. He does me damage, goes up to 8, responds, Excited for Blood, loses 2, and then I got respond, commit it down with Petty Squabble. I don't want him going to 11. Then the next turn, he does it again. He does me a little bit of damage. He heals 1. Then he goes Excited for Blood. And I go commit it down again. He is essentially paying 1 life to draw a card.
Yeah, I mean it depends on context, right?
I wanted to get him into a position where he was on 6. So if he's on 6, rejuvenating is lethal. Rapid punch, repeated smash is lethal. All my attacks are lethal, and I've got 3 momentum. If I can get one of those guys down and get it fast enough, he's dead.
Yeah, again, it's just context, right? Like sometimes the cards are more important than the life total, right? Because having extra cards means you put over that life total. But also, like, you're stunning him on his turn, right? So, and then you're drawing those cards back up. So, there's a reasonable chance that was the correct decision. I don't know. I wasn't watching the game. But, obviously, you felt it was, and you got top 4. So, fuck everyone else.
It's the same thing we say during all of our things. It's not a decision you made personally, but you can understand where the decision came from.
Yeah, and it's quite possible, like, I would have made that decision, or it's a line I wouldn't have necessarily seen, and maybe like they're not seeing that line, but you're seeing it as okay, these are resources I can spend on my turn, keep his life total low. I'm stunning him on his turn, so that decreasing the risk to me by spending my resources, and then increasing my chance of killing him on the backswing. So like it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But yeah, Luke played a hell of a game. He Murray at the beginning of the round went, "Do you want to look at each other's deck lists?" And I went, "No, I'm good." So we got off going. His high block average is like 1.39. He's got 11 mids and 11 high block high attacks, so I don't have to hold lows. He's got 22 attacks total. His average block modifier for his foundations is between 2 and 3. And then Luke just goes, I'm just going to quickly look at his list as I'm rattling all the facts off from his list. And I was like, yeah, we've had like an hour and a half to look at lists, but Luke immediately identified Plummeting Punch as a threat, did not go into deadlock until at least 3 of them were in the discard. He was playing a very good mental game. Whenever I talked about cards in my discard when I was talking, his immediate response was, that means you've got one in hand. It's like, even if I didn't have one in hand, it's great to hear my opponent looking at what I'm doing, look at what I'm saying, and trying to figure out where I'm coming from. It was really good to see something that you don't quite see often. Was really cool. I squeak out game 2 by getting a Plummeting Punch in for 5. He goes down to 1. Then he learns the standards me. I get repeated down, and I just make it faster than God, just so he goes down. Game 3 was very quick. Build. As Gaz has said, it was a long day. It's not great for people with ADHD to be concentrating for that long. I got distracted. I got tired. I went into deadlock. And then he immediately went, focus attack, first attack, commit Petty Squabble, commit Heroic Lineage, commit Decoy Duplicate. Have fun with that.
Oh, yeah, you're not allowed deadlock with focus attack, really.
But, yeah, and then immediately came up with like 6 other attacks. I managed to block pretty much everything. It was the 3 repeated smashes at the end, which, seeing as how many people I killed with repeated smash, I cannot be angry with losing to that. It was a hell of a game. Luke went on to play a hell of a finals. It's the best I've done in an event. And congratulations to all the top 8, other than myself, who are going. It's going to be really good to see you guys out in Orlando. And out of everyone that was in there, I think only me and Philip are repeat attendees for the HLC.
Yeah. And congratulations to Liam for getting the win. I'm just going to say I am lifetime undefeated against Liam, but it's weird. No, obviously Liam's a lovely guy, so yeah, congrats to him, and obviously congrats to everyone else, and obviously I guess congrats to you massive luck sack.
Yeah, I did say to Grant as I was going in, I am like 3-0 against Grant, and now I'm 3-0-1 against Grant, so I'm taking that as a big hype for me. before we move on to the side events, I think the biggest honour to me throughout the entire weekend was after top 4, Mike Hardiman, his weekly shout out is done, coming up to me, and if we remember during the Nationals draft, I was informed by Keenan that I had upset a certain Mr. Brett with my comments about how I played more I might have made a more defensive list than him, and that he was going to show me what real defense was like. And then I get a message off. Mike comes up to me and goes, Garrett wants you to know that he's proud of the way you play his deck, and he's glad you finally learnt defense. And I was like, that's really high praise. And then when
that's what Void does. Void does really good defense.
Yeah,
and obviously now it's got a repeated smash. It's actually got offense.
That's just it, and it was just being recognised by one of the old heads, especially as you've said repeatedly, Garrett Brett, who has probably got the most cards under his name.
Oh, he just has.
Yeah, being acknowledged by players of that caliber, and having other players of that caliber messaging me in Discord going, "Can you talk me through your list?" was so cool to me, because it didn't happen with Dabby because nobody else wanted to play Dabby, but playing a meta character and having people going, we want to go, talk me through your list, talk me through your decisions. I really loved it because I got to talk about the event, and I could talk about this event for literal hours. It was so cool.
From a new player perspective as well, it's nice to see off meta characters in the top. Yeah. It was so boring to see the Mirios and Overhauls, because my first real experience was regionals, and that was all I saw. I came up against like 3 Mirios, 2 Overhauls, and I was so bored by the end of the day. And then looking at the top cuts, I was like, oh my god, it's like 10 of the characters are Mirios or Overhauls. And it was so nice to see you play like a Midnight, and it was so nice to see, Shig in there. It was so nice to see Eraser. I know Eraser's a great character, and Jiro's a great character, but the Shig and the Midnight for me, from new player perspective, was like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, I love to see diversity, and there was really not much diversity at the Nationals.
Apparently you're quite quiet. I'm gonna just bump your volume up a little bit.
Yeah, and also Midnight's a deck you've been putting a lot of work into for a long time, right? Even when you were playing Dabby, like back in set 2 or set 3, like Midnight was your sideboard, so it's always been a character you played, so you've got a lot of experience with it.
You know firsthand from the HLC, I've got experience with Midnight, and Midnight has always been my go-to defensive character.
Yeah.
So and as Gary's saying, I don't think Midnight is off meta. That's just my opinion, because she has been top in events. She's not meta, but she's not off meta. She's kind of in a weird Venn diagram of characters that are good in this meta, but characters that are not really seen play.
I think more like diversity is what I mean. More than anything else.
I mean, I think if anything, this event should prove one thing, and that is people need to stop disrespecting the Void symbol. I think the Void symbol is very good. I think it's got learning standards, it's got repeated smash, it's got barrier shield, it's got loads of defensive options. I think the Void symbol is very, very good. And obviously, there was always the view of it's being carried by a Racerhead, right? There's just one, but no, Void Midnight is very good.
Yeah.
And I think, people should maybe look at other Void characters as options.
One of the decks I was going to bring, which I showed Richard, was a Void Kick Eraserhead deck. So it was a bit kind of like off meta, and it did a lot of speed but not much damage. But Void had a lot of fun stuff you could do with it.
So if you're interested in that, Gazza, speak to Mr. Hardiman, because he played up against a Void Selkie deck who uses kicks, and he's stolen that for testing. And if it's the same one I came across in May, it is very strong, because getting 2 momentum for free is really good.
Well, but also, if you go to there's this YouTube channel, that Dabby guy, some jabroni has done a video on Void Kicks, all for one.
That's also true. But the biggest takeaways from me is that there is, in the current meta, there is not enough Deadlock hate for it to be respected. I know I lost because I went into Deadlock, but I think I just went into Deadlock too early. Going into Deadlock by 1 was the mistake. Going into Deadlock by 4 would have been fine. Because that's exactly what happened. I won most of my games by deadlock and having the having deadlock threats on there. But when I looked at Luke's list, he had 3 deadlock threats in face. He saw all 3 of them game 1, but Kyle didn't really have deadlock threats I need to worry. He had pull no punches. The moment he used pull no punches, I responded with petty squabble. It was gone for the rest of the turn. Reese didn't really have deadlock punches, deadlock threats. There's not enough deadlock threat out there that I cannot that basically goes I can't deal with it. Luke also had the same sort of like design, but his Lost in Thoughts were designed to counteract my deadlock threats.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we went from almost a meta with everyone just turn 2ing everyone to a meta where everyone's taking 17 hours to complete a game. So, I mean, obviously there's still those aggro characters. Jiro's still good. Tokiami is still very good.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, as Kyle said, Earth doesn't have much deadlock, but that's why the Vault 14 guys were talking about the fact we need a board wipe, and that's something I'll come back into when we talk about the side events. There are cards and actions out there that let you blow up all the foundations, essentially restarting the game. There needs to be progressive deadlock, so the deeper your opponent is into deadlock, the more powerful cards get. There needs to be something out there that makes your opponent go, I can't go into deadlock, because it's the closest I found was Plummeting Punch, because if you go into deadlock, you lose 3 foundations against me for 1 life. That is a very good deadlock, but it, by no means did it stop people from eventually going, it's not worth me having to play around it.
yeah, Void doesn't punish deadlock very well. It's just those 2 new cards. Before Plummeting Punch and Practical Studies, it's got Dogwater deadlock threat. It was always a secret of like my Void All for one before set 5 was I basically got no deadlock punish at all.
The best deadlock in the deck was You Can't Escape Me, because you commit it and you get +1 speed for each of your rivals' committed foundations. And because all my attacks are coming for above 5, my later attacks then I could go +8 speed. And he's got, yeah, that's not getting stopped. And because of repeated smash, I think to ready it back up. Same with Practical Studies, commit +3 speed, seal learning standards. It's so good. But other than those cards, there's not deadlock out there that people were worried about, and if it wasn't down, they weren't worried about it. But the other thing that really helped out my deck was the surprise defense, and it's something that Mike Hardiman, when I was originally talking about that, pointed out, and some other people, is your opponent will look at your board and go, okay, there's no decoys, there's no learning standards, I can get in this turn and I can get some serious damage. And they'll launch their back alley haymaker. You go, cool, block it, decoy, flip, manly, build it down. And now their entire turn has changed because this one foundation has come down. Vile Seizing is Kyle's saying Vile Seizing is deadlock. That is the biggest deadlock respect out there. And even then, once you get to like 15, 16 foundations, it's not going to be as impactful.
I feel like one of my favourite deadlock cards I had in my deck was Fruit for Our Labours. I just kind of like it because one, I was practicing against a lot of Miros, and we tend to have this joke now, like +2 damage, make it low. So it was a good low block, and also feel it's really good at clearing my card pool against like the overhauls when they're doing 6 attack strings in a row, and then I can just like clear my card pool a bit. So, and it's got that nice deadlock threat of like forcing them to play a card face down. So it doesn't necessarily good against overhaul, but it's just clearing the hand a bit more, so 1 less attack.
No. Yeah, it's just hand tax then, right? So
exactly. But I'm very excited to be going to Orlando. I'm not the happiest that it is in Florida due to its LGBT situation, and I know there's a few people that feel the exact same as me. We're going because it's My Hero Worlds. We're not going because it's a holiday to a state that is a literal hellhole.
Yeah, I mean, so Harry and Gary, like any other sort of thoughts from you guys on that first day? Sort of takeaways, sort of ups, downs, that sort of thing.
I was honestly, like Gary was saying earlier, one of my mates is running Shig. So to see that Shig do so well, funnily enough, I sent it to him. The deck list came out yesterday, and I sent it over to Yash. And I saw him at school today. I went with him. And he went, oh,
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit there, Harry.
Oh.
Can you...
Let's give it a go. Can you hear me better now?
Oh no, your
Yeah.
signal's going, buddy.
Let's run to the router.
But yeah, so while Harry gets himself sorted out, Gazza, do you want to talk about what your favourite matchup from Swiss was, and what was there any card combination or any sort of play that you came across that you hadn't seen before or thought about before that was like, that's really cool, and it had never occurred to me?
Definitely one of my favourite games I came up across is probably the Shig. Again, like just seeing what it could do. I think that's what Harry's going to touch on, as we've got a friend that plays it. It's just nice to see something. My least favourite things were just seeing the same cards over and over again. You know, the repeated and the reduced smashes. I'm just so sick to death of seeing them. They just seem to they've created this meta, which I feel that everyone's just basing their deck off. So rather than actually just building a deck based on a character or some, whatever, I feel like a lot of decks are being created around these like sort of two main cards now, maybe back alleys in there as well. But I pretty much spent most of the day just seeing those three cards. So yeah, the Shig game was really, really fun for me. It was nice to see how things work. It was really cool to see how I can't remember. I think it was like Corrosion Lunge was quite neat to see how that would do, and he sort of merged it into stuff. I kind of liked. I haven't really seen Spear of Shield used, and it was nice to see how that worked as well. It did some good bits against me. But yeah, it was really good. I feel like some characters are quite predictable. So no, I don't mean disrespectfully to Andy. As Andrew Andy played Nomu. Adam, sorry. Yeah, sorry, long day. Yes, Adam. So it's one of my first games, and it's one of the characters that Richard's been sort of running me through and just breaking. They said like, if you don't need to block the attack, don't block the first attack, because they're going to go into a mid calorie counter. Just hold a mid block, take the first one, and then you're kind of laughing from then. So I just kind of played around that sort of strategy, holding a mid block. Halving or not taking the first bit of damage, or usually not taking it, just so the counter just went down. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the sort of day. Again, as I said, it's just very, very long. There could have been probably an actual proper break, throughout the day. Maybe split it up into a couple of breaks or over whatever. But yeah, for me and having ADHD, I just sort of lost focus by sort of towards the end.
No, it makes sense, and I think the main issue is if you do multiple breaks, it's a lot harder for the staff to get back in the groove. And although it's better for neuro-spicy people like ourselves, who can immediately get back in focus because we can take the break and then our brains come back in refreshed, neurotypicals, if you break their flow, they find it harder to get back into their flow. They don't have that same instant switch on, instant switch off sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
You guys okay if I talk a little bit about the Friday event?
Yes, by all means.
So
obviously, this will be the retro event. So I virtually know nothing about it, and these guys may probably know even less than me about what goes on in retro.
So the first thing I want to talk about is the side events. Not the side events, the last chance qualifiers.
Okay.
There was a very nice thing being said by a couple of people, and it was in there going, good people don't need rules to be good. And no gatekeeping was happening in last chance qualifiers. Not a single one of our members of our community had to be told, you're being a bit of a dick or stuff like that. There were some people saying that they might jump in just to get games in, but they will concede the finals and do stuff like that. But it didn't really happen. Nobody really went in. The pods were quite small. I think the first one that fired at 10 was 5 people. But it was really cool to see that nobody went in there trying to gatekeep the actual events. Ellie got an invite through it. Kai got an invite through it, and Kai had a hell of an event. I think he powered through the final round even though he was feeling really ill, and it was really heartbreaking to see how much he was struggling, and I did offer to go get a judge so he could take a break, but he powered through, and I really hope he keeps at it because I want to lose to him at some point in this round because I think he's got potential to be a very strong player. And walking around, because I'd ID'd in round 7, it was really heartbreaking to see him feeling unwell after he pulled out such a good performance getting in there through the last chance qualifier.
Yeah, he's a young lad.
Yeah.
I think he's about the same age as my son. Like I think he was.
I
don't know how
he
old
was-
he is, but he's a young lad.
Yeah, he was hanging around with Charlie and some of the other younger players that were there. Charlie was playing Overhaul Funny Punch and having a hell of a time during the Swiss. But then we had Retro. And I have been obligated by Apple to talk about the fact that the 2 judges from the RLE that went into Retro both suffered judge damage during Retro. Nathan Squire tried to do 2 first forms,
Right.
which you can't.
I mean, there's the sort of thing you'd expect from a Mono player. So
He did first form on a foundation and then tried to first form on self-destruction, which blows up all assets and foundations in play, and then builds the top card of your deck face down, and then ends your turn.
right.
It's a hell of a card, and I was sideboarded in my retro deck. And then Apple played a multiple deck. Multiple lets you get discard a momentum, then take the card that you discarded from your momentum from your discard and put it face down, and you can play that as your next attack. You don't
For Clarity, it's basically old version of Echo, right?
but you don't
It's
check.
the broken version of Echo. Echo is the fixed version of Multi.
You don't check it. It doesn't have any of the keywords or the abilities. It's just a blank attack that has that speed, that damage. But
Yeah, except what happens is you have like multiple 3, and you just got a 3 momentum, and you get 3 copies of this attack just appear in your card pool, and
that you don't need to check for. So Apple did his attack, resolved it, flipped it face down, then moved on to his next form, and forgot to resolve the multiple attack. They called Judge over, Judge gave him warning, and he was like, "Yeah, sure," and then immediately did the exact same thing again. Played the multiple attack, played the card face down, flipped his attack, moved on to his next form, and he went, "Yeah, that's a game loss for me." I was playing Vega. I was talking with Squire, Murray, and a couple of people about what to play. They recommended I wanted to play Vicious. I wanted to play Ken just for Barbie memes. But then I went into Vega. Vega is basically Shigaraki free, but insane. So whenever my opponent makes a check, if Vega is ready, I commit Vega. They get -1 to that check. If they pass that check, I ready Vega. So that's a little bit dumb. Then there's Desperation.
Sounds like Harry sort of jam.
Then there's Desperation Effect, which is a static ability. If I'm at Desperation, all my opponent's attacks get +1 difficulty and -1 speed. All of my attacks get -1 difficulty and +1 speed.
So Desperation, for clarity, is under half health, or is it under 10?
Same as maybe saying Apple asked for the game loss. But yeah. So Desperation is the same as Quick Act. It's when you're below half health, not when you're at half health. So I was playing Vega, and I was basically playing it as a Shigaraki free build, but with older attacks. I was running cards that are like, there's one called Time Slow. It's a 1 high block, it's a 2 check, and it has the ability that says when it's in play, it's static ability, when it's in play, all my opponent's checks get -1. It has an E of Heal 2, it has Desperation Stun 2 and Regular Stun 2, and I've only got 1 copy of it, but it was so good. My entire thing was, I'm staying alive until I can get to the point where I kill you. Got people in chat talking about time slow was absolutely insane. I was playing Bat Swing, which is gives all my opponent's checks to play non-attacks -1. Vile Seizing, Chronostasis Trigger, 4 Barrier Shields, 3 Haymakers, which was really cool because it means my opponent has to play next attack into the breakers. But basically, I got to be a pseudo Jiro. and against Ricky Pull, who was handling. Yeah, he was on 11 health, and I went attack. He went block. I went attack. He went block. He had no cards in hand. My only attack left in hand was Haymaker. I went, I can't kill him. And then I read it. I went, oh no, I can. Foundation, 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 foundation. Haymaker, commit 6. Here comes a 4 mid for 11.
But yeah, so again, just sort of skipping back a little bit for these guys. So retro is it anything
Anything
like
with
printed, or is that a different
that's
format?
so that is legacy because I found a card called Killing Bite which I wanted to run and so went, no, that's legacy. Killing Bite. So Killing Bite is a card that has stun 2 and its only effect is rather than stun 2, you can have your opponent discard 2 cards.
Okay.
Which is dumb. But retro
what's the
is
difference between retro and legacy then.
so legacy is everything from Capcom and FFG and everything that along those lines. It is retro is everything in the Jasco UVS era.
Right. Okay.
I've heard a lot about retro this weekend, and it sounds like it's not for the faint-hearted. Like, there was somebody explaining to me that you can lose on turn 0. So essentially, you can be basically killed on your turn. Like, you're doing the attacks, but they're just reflecting everything to kill you. So before the other person's even had the turn, they've managed to kill you. Just based on your turn.
So
and I've heard that you just lose like straight away as well. So you can spend like hours and hours building your deck and then just lose within 5 minutes because it's just attacks straight away.
So
Sounds
that
not
they're
for the faint-hearted.
basically all just flunging degenerate nonsense at each other.
No, so there was Heidi in there, which had no attacks in the deck. Heidi is Exodia. You need to basically build in more copies of Heidi, and once you've got one of each down, you win. Which is and if you deal damage to Heidi, they fall off. I believe I didn't face her, so I don't know, but that's the way it was explained to me. But another thing I'm obligated to talk about is Nathan Squire's turn 1 BS move. So we're on game 2. I just won game 1. Game 2, first attack. He go first turn. He's on his build turn 1. He draws his 7 cards. He goes full Cowling Impact. Checks the 5, so I can't Vega it. He got 7 damage. So I got 2 speed for 11. I can block that. I've got a plus 2 block modifier in hand. Then goes Evil Gaze. I'll lose 2 speed. I go, can't block that now. I go to block. I'll keep the. I can block it. Checks 1 off. I got take 11. My Desperation's online. And I then spend 40 minutes defending on 8 health, which in retro is a really cool thing to do. Time gets called. It's my turn. If I end my turn, I win. But out of respect for what Nathan did and how good the game was, I tried to go in for the kill. He reversal me and he kills me. And if you're not aware, Gazza, there is a keyword response called reversal, which means after you block an attack, you then get to launch an attack of your own.
Right, yeah, that's probably what the person talked about.
Yeah,
it seems the other thing that people mentioned this weekend as well is how retro has kind of influenced some of the Jetburn cards, like the alternate win conditions, some of the new keywords. So,
like
have you noticed that?
Edgeshot is almost a direct reprint of
Lord Raptor.
I think it's a direct reprint, but different symbols of Lord Raptor.
Yeah.
He's an old character.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about retro. I've had a few cards. I think Murray at the regionals sorted me out a Evil Dead character. It's one of my favourite sort of films and things.
I forgot to get one off him this time. I keep forgetting to get one off him.
Yeah, so that was really nice of him. But other than that, I've not really seen anything. But I was speaking to people about retro. It does sound like Jetburn seems to be retro seems to be influencing some of the decisions they made. So when it comes to alternate win conditions, some of the new cards coming out, some of the new keywords, So I'm not sure if you've seen that or you think it's going to be more common.
Well, part of that is because a lot of like the design team and sort of a lot of the employees of UVS Games are ex-players. So people like Jeremy Ray and stuff like that. So a lot of it's probably them just kind of right. These are my favourite cards from old era. How do we get those into my hero, like as like balanced or fixed versions?
So
That's why
yeah.
So there's a lot of cards which are sort of. There were some direct reprints. So, for example, Valiant Assault was a direct reprint. One with Nature was a direct reprint. Headshot is effectively a direct reprint. Showdown was mostly, but not quite a direct reprint.
It's a direct reprint with different wording. Sense of Justice does it as well.
Sense of Justice, and then there's some that are like spiritual successors.
Gazza, do you know Twisty Surroundings?
Rings a bell.
So it's the asset from set 5 that's a free check, breaker 2, +2 mid block.
Yes, I do know one, yeah.
Yeah, how would you feel about it if it was a 2 cost, breaker 2 with 0 mid block?
Sounds pretty strong.
That's Maze Castle. That's in the Yu Hakusho set. It's absolutely amazing, and that's the kind of like what Rich was saying with spiritual reprints. It's the same card. It had the exact same text. It's just a few of its stats have been changed.
Yeah, as Apple was saying in chat, Midoriya 4 is basically a reprint of what's her name?
Jackie Briggs.
Jackie Briggs. But I think on with minor tweaks, maybe different keyword lock or something. I'm not sure, but basically the same character.
One person that we haven't mentioned is Matt Gideon. Matt Gideon was sent out by UVS. Absolutely legend.
He's dead to me. He didn't bring red wines.
No, but the reason I bring him up here is he has been working very hard over the last few months to bring retro back. He was telling us that this is kind of his child format. He wants it to come back more. He wants more MHA players. He wants more UVS players to get experience in these cards because unfortunately they can't come back. They can't be reprinted. They're in this weird limbo of they only exist on the secondary market. So getting more players into it, getting more players used to cross-set older cards, these much more powerful things, is great for him and be able to see everyone doing it. And I had so much fun playing retro. It was really cool. I really enjoyed my deck, and hearing that UVS is thinking about us as players and looking at these formats and going, what is going to be fun for players? What is going to bring people into events? How can we get them exposed to older cards? As Yu Yu Hakusho comes in next year, it's going to have reprints of the old cards. They've already confirmed that. So giving people a little bit of experience of what the old heads used to do was really cool. It was really interesting to see how these old cards worked. And it was a lot.
I'm expecting a bit of a format shake-up next year, right? In terms of how retro, legacy, standard, My Hero Block, or whatever, how they're sort of handled and how they fit into the sort of competitive scene. Yeah. How that's going to look, I don't know, but I'm expecting something.
With this now being our off season, I could see November's ban list being huge. It affects nothing but the HLC, and I could see them coming in and just basically going, there's no RLEs, there's nothing really competitive, it's all casual play. Let's gut the system. Let's hit Razorhead, let's hit Jiro, let's hit all these cards that people have been asking us for, and let's see how people enjoy playing it in November, December, January. And then if people are complaining that they're not having fun and so on, they can bring them back. But while there's no massive events to influence,
that doesn't matter. I don't think they'll ever do a blanket like that where they'll just ban out 20 cards unless the format warrants it. Because ultimately, getting your card banned is like it feels bad for a player, like especially a newer player. You're like open to card in a pack.
I am still on the train of set 1 is going to rotate out at some point in the next few months.
I don't think so. again, you kind of again, but that's what I'm talking about. Rather than bans and anything, I'm talking about more how the competitive and the sort of the format landscape looks in terms of like standard, how many sets are in standard, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting something next year, but I don't know what that's going to be.
I could quite happily see them go multiples back. Multiple will be replacing standard. Standard will be the last 10 sets, no matter what's been printed. However, you will now have Yu Yu Hakusho block. You will now have your Cowboy Bebop block. You will now have MHA block, and those will only be the last 5 sets that have been printed for them. So that would immediately get rid of set 1 in November with set 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
To get rid of set 1, it's fine.
If we
need to get off that train.
If we got rid of set 1, the diversity of the meta opens up dramatically because you lose a lot of the cards that are making Overhaul and Mirio really big threats to deal with.
I'm not so convinced, but sure.
I mean, set 1 is really hard to get hold of. I mean, that's for sure. Asmodee have had it out of stock for like 2 months now. I've had to get it from America. My ones I'm getting.
That's the other issue is as new players come in, it's a lot harder for new players to get hold of the older set. You got to think it's technically at this point 2 years old. It's only 15 months old for us, but it's 2 years old for the game. As I see what you did there, losing Pass of the Torch, it can't be fixed. Good with the next set. Good has got so much stun hate, is no point even running it. Capture Evildoers, Texas Smash, Tongue Whip, Midnight, Eraserhead. You lose a lot of cards. You lose a lot of foundations, and it opens up people to have to actually expand because for the last 2 years, if someone went, I'm playing a punch lineup, you could pretty much predict what they're doing. And as Gazza said, some characters are becoming very predictable. Rotating set 1 out makes it a lot harder to predict what people are going to be running.
Yeah, they are very predictable because they're going to say +2 and make it low. So that's that whole +2 make it low thing was a meme in our play group, like going back beyond the weekend, just because again Jordan, one of our local guys, was playing Mirio, and obviously we just took the piss out of him for being a meta bitch, despite the fact I was probably going to play Jiro. And obviously he played it very, very well.
Closing thoughts on Retro was absolutely insane. Absolutely loved it. Having to deal with things that I've never seen before and having to just sort of like swing with the punches was so cool. I wish I'd been able to go up against Heidi and try that one out, but I think my deck would have been too slow to get there. Big thanks to Dan Austin for letting me test my deck up against him on the Thursday before the event, get a bit more used to it. Even though he did completely trash me with his character, but I hope these events come back. I'd like to see more standard, more retro. But let's move on to another format that needs to come back, especially I think at a national level, would be the team event on the Sunday.
Yeah, so on the Sunday, obviously you got the sweaty tryhards doing their thing and the top cuts, and actually the best thing on the weekend was happening on the Sunday, and not just because I won, but a bit because I won. I never played teams before, right? I'd never done a teams event, and sort of briefly speaking to Apple, he was saying, "Oh yeah, teams is like the best format," and like even sort of back in the day, like people would go super sweaty for the teams rather than singles. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's sign up on the Sunday and see what happens. So I had Gary on my team. I played sort of silly good Giro. The good stuff back alley build, and then we had Nathaniel, one of Brandon's guys who needed a team and we needed a sixth. Really cool player, really cool guy. So I think one of the sort of Gillingham lot, he was playing Snipe, which was amazing. We'd never played it. So for those that don't know, listening in chat or YouTube, so the way teams works, you've got teams of 3. You all pick a deck. In theory, you're only supposed to have maximum of 8 of a singular card between the 3 decks. Obviously, with our decks, there was no concern of that. And then at the beginning of the round, you get the two team captains. You put your 3 characters for each team in front of you. The team captains roll off. The highest roller gets to pick the first matchup. So they pick one of their characters to face one of your characters, and sets that matchup. And then whoever then didn't win the dice roll then sets the other 2, and you then all the team then play a best out of 3 set with your opponent, and then the team then wins or loses based on obviously the overall result of your team. So if your team wins 2 out of the 3 matches, you win the round. So round 1, obviously we played against I think it's Kieran, if I remember your name rightly, buddy. If I haven't, apologies. Who's in chat? He was on Nezu. He got paired into Nathaniel, and I believe comboed him with some sort of weird silly bullet punches thing. And then Gary clutched it against All Might 3 on his Tabe. And then I played a really cool Warp Gate Portal Yu-Hojo deck. And unfortunately, obviously, I was doing degenerate good Giro things. So, we won that round. Round 2 escapes me. What was round 2, Gary?
Round 2. It was against. It was another Giro.
Was it the Spanish guys?
So your round 1 opponent's team name was Nezu Mighty Hose.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I played Toru 2, didn't I? Which was really interesting. I think they were Spanish. Apologies to the guys if they're not.
Were they wearing the polo shirts with like the My Hero Academia thing on the front and the star thing on the back?
No, yeah. I don't remember. I think so. Yeah.
I think those might have been the Italian players, but I'm not sure.
I'm terrible at accents and stuff like that, so again, apologies if I got your country completely wrong. Was that Harry?
I think you played the Italian guys last.
Yeah. Harry's saying Italian. You might still breaking up a little bit there, Harry. But yeah.
I played against Toru 2. Gary, you played against Amajiki, I think, that round, right?
No,
you played Snipe into Amajiki because Snipe had main board 4 exploding prides.
Ooh.
And was just playing a lot of Haiti stuff.
And Gary's gone.
And I think Gary played against Mirio, maybe. I think it was Mirio. So then, Snipe beat Amajiki because he had all the hate. I think Gary ended up drawing with Mirio, and then Toru 2 was like one of the most fun matches I had. Really interesting. That the Sound Waves versus Toru 2 dance is an interesting one. And I think game 2, I think it was game 3 actually. So I was playing Water Toru 2. I had 3 momentum. I play a Sound Waves, and I then stack a 6 and then a Futurist now on top of my deck, and it's like, what are you going to do? Do you want to let me draw the Futurist now, or do you want therefore threaten like a kill later, or do you want to kind of bounce it and then I can then keep going hard because I've got other copies of Sound Waves in my bin?
Just while you got a bit of a lull there, we've got Apple in the chat saying that Broberg came over during one of the UK Nationals with 2 other Americans, all dressed in stars and stripes, to show how awesome they were, and they weren't expecting the UK to come at them as hard as they did, and got slapped right out of teams. Always good to hear. I was going to sign up for teams. Ellie asked me if I wanted to be in there. I was not expecting to top cut this event, so me and Ellie were going to look for a third on the Sunday. We were going to be the team for the girls, the gays, and the days. But unfortunately, I top cut, so I didn't get to be part of it.
I really enjoyed teams. It's probably one of my favourite parts of the weekend, actually.
Absolutely.
It was I didn't expect it to be as fun as I thought it was. Like, it's good to be in tournaments, nice to be competitive, but there wasn't much diversity throughout the nationals. So obviously, everyone's trying to get to the top, right? So just going to play the meta. But it was so much nice to play teams when everyone was just playing characters they just love, and you could feel that there was a bit more passion when they're playing their characters, and it was just fun.
So before Richard continues with the story, let me just quickly refer you. So you might not know, Gary, but the old national prizes used to be cards. So if you won the standard, or as we are now MHA nationals, you got a character card that you worked with the design team to make. National teams used to have its own national tournament as well that happened before the standard. And if you won team nationals, your team was put onto an asset card, which is what Ricky was handing out during Retro. So it's one thing that teams is still a competitive format, but it's also a lot of fun for people to do because it forces you to think a bit more about diversity and think a bit more about how your team is going to play. But it's one I'd love to see team nationals come back. I think it's something that this game would absolutely love. And now the community is even bigger thanks to MHA and will continue to grow. Mike Hadman and Grant Pally have got their own cards. They've also got a lot of asset cards. You've got the United Kingdom of Smash, which is also a card.
Nice.
I would love to actually get into a team event. I am actually really gutted that I missed it, but I can't complain as to why I missed it.
Yeah. See, round 3 we drew. I'm terrible at remembering people's names. So I played against a Midnight, actually. That was a really tough match. Got there in the end. And then Snipe, I believe they paired Snipe into a Chaco 2, because a Chaco 2 probably just punches Snipe to bits before it happened. And then I think you drew with Star Strike Giro, if I remember rightly.
It was, yeah. I wasn't expecting it. So as soon as I started seeing those cards, because they won the dice roll, the second game I just had to play a bit more on the back foot. So and I won that game. And then the third game I just went ultra defensive, just stuck all of my defensive cards in. Was like, I'm just going to play for a draw here because I can't afford to take this much damage from a Giro.
Yeah. So we drew that round, and then last round I believe we were against the Italian guys. And I think this was like one of my favourite games because I played against we run the dice roll. I paired me into their overhaul. We paired Snipe into the Tokiyami because you figured Snipe could just kill him down.
No, I was against Tokiyami.
Oh yeah, obviously because you just eat you food everything. And then we paired Snipe into Mirio. They picked that one, right? Because we paired me into Overhaul because I figured I had the best shot against Overhaul. And then Snipe clutched it out against Mirio. You had a great matchup against Tokiyami and clutched it out. And then so game 1 against Overhaul, I think it was Earth Overhaul. Obviously, I'm playing good Giro. I draw my hand. I've got 2 foundations, like an action, some attacks. I'm like, might pitch that. Draw my second hand, 1 foundation. I build 1 and pass. Next turn, I back alley, build a 0, stack my top 2. It's a 5 and 2 5s, I believe. I then go play the 4 low flash attack on the 5. I then go future is now, build the 1 foundation in my hand, cannon blast, check the 5 off like the 1 foundation, do about 20 odd damage in that first turn, build a couple, and just somehow win the game off the back of building 1 turn 1.
That is insane.
Yeah, sometimes you run good. I mean, it was sort of running bad, getting mulligan into 1 foundation, and then just run good on that second turn. But it's like, if I check a 3 on that first back alley, I'm just dead. But yeah, and then obviously we won, which was great because we went 3 in a draw. No one went 4-0, so we got 1 of each, all the promos for each of us. All 3, and it was just so much fun. I mean, I sort of regret almost taking a sweaty good Giro character into it. I just didn't have anything else built. I didn't really fancy playing Tokiyami for a second day. And I just in the end just couldn't be bothered to build something else. Like if I could have been, I probably would have turned up with like Void All for One because it's cool and fun and I really like it. But yeah, just as a format, teams is a lot of fun. Yeah, fully recommend taking part in any teams events if you can because it was just great.
Let's try and answer Adam's question in the chat. Adam's asking what we think about the SRs that were shown over the weekend. Did you guys have a chance to actually have a look at them?
Very
Didn't see
briefly,
them.
I think we'll probably go over them maybe more detail sort of next episode or something. But my initial takes were, like the Toga one's sort of cool, but it's very mid.
So I like the Toga one. I like the. I think the Shoto one is great. Face Wings is cracked. Face Wings is absolutely insane, giving you the ability to just grab any block zone you need on those on evil or good order is great. You just go, okay, I'll pick up any foundation. If I just get any action in my discard, any free or blow check attack is absolutely insane. And
again, I haven't really looked at them much to evaluate them, to be honest.
The key one for me is the hand response, which is when one of your foundations is committed or destroyed, you can build a non-unique foundation from your discard into play. To me, that is just a little bit nuts. We'll definitely go over them a little bit more detail because we've still got a lot more cards we need to go over.
And obviously, Harry did play in the teams on the Sunday. I don't know if your signal's back, Harry, but him,
We'll
Jordan,
give it a
and
go.
Will. Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I was running Stain 1. Jordan was on Fourth Kind, and Will was running his Momo again. We had the match up against the Italian guys first, and I think Will was against the Overhaul, and I think that whole match is just kind of
a grind.
Yeah. So I think they just about finished the second game, and Will drew. I had Tokiyami, and obviously similar thing with Gary. I just every time summon was put on, I would just eat it with food, so it kind of made him redundant. And then also just minusing his checks on Ruin mainly. Every time he played a Ruin, I just tap my Stain, and a couple of times he just failed it. So did me a favour in the end. I think halfway through he just kind of had resigned to the fact that it was just a bad matchup for him. Second game was against an Eraser, which yet again I think is quite a good matchup for Stain because I'm just responding before he even gets a chance to see on my character. That was 1-1. I drew that game. He was so close to beating me. Had he checked, so he was he had 2 100% repeateds in his hand on the last turn of our last game. If he checks a 5, he wins, but he checked a 3. So I'll take it. And I think in the end we ended up 7th out of 13th. So considering we're all new players playing in a format like that, I think we did pretty well. But my favourite matchup was against Rich. You'll have to remind me of his name. The guy running Storm of Blades.
Oh, Xander,
which was such a fun matchup. So he was running Storm of Blades on Nezare. And it's just so much fun to play against, and it's almost like you forget that you're playing for the win because you're just having so much fun. So I was there checking my one.
Spin the wheels and do his thing.
Oh, I've got to run a deck because I'm a one check lover.
Those are the best games where it's a case of you're both having fun, and no matter what the outcome is, it was such a good game that you're satisfied regardless.
Exactly, and
I think Harry, you're definitely one of that people in our group, aren't you? You're the one that like experiments probably more than any of us, like because you're the one that goes for the fun combinations, whereas we're all kind of a bit trying to go for the wins and metas. And yes, you're trying to win, but you're trying to go for the fun combination of winning, which is
I just want to do things that is like if this works, it's ridiculous, but also very fun. And I think one of the qualifiers we had over in Bexhill at Famous Collectibles, I think I probably needed to win this game, and I might have qualified, I'm not sure. And turn 1, I go for so I'm starting. I think I try and play a food, and I check my back alley my dropkick slicer, and then that's my first turn advantage gone. But I have fun with my deck, so I'm not making it out.
I feel like
you are a dropkick slicer gamer.
I feel like me, Harry. I feel like me and you get on well with playing games. After I had my invite, I turned up to the next Provisional Star Championship with Dabby 2 all mid funny punch.
Yeah, see, I'm living for that. That is my jam.
Yeah, I won one game against Uwabami by having a 11 mid for 22 focused attack.
But it's cool that you can do stuff like that. Like, fair enough, 90% of games that won't happen. But the one time it does happen, you'll go, yeah, I told you it would work.
When also playing off meta stuff, or even if you're playing a meta character, playing off meta attacks, like with Richard and All For One, I would never have thought to make All For One and kicks. Richard looked at All For One like, this is a perfect kicks give speed, All For One gives damage. That's perfect. That's one of the great things about this game. You can have the same character, but everyone will build them differently because of the way people see how the cards work.
Yeah, I think that's what we've realised as new players. Like, I think the first thing that kind of pulled us in was the diversity. Just purely, a lot of us at the start were playing very similar characters because we were getting used to it. Yet we were playing completely different and playing with different cards. So,
yeah, I think once you take a step away from the sweatiness, right? Because, like, if you look at it from a purely competitive standpoint, look at the top 16 of nationals. It's like, well, it's just you play Overhaul or Mirio or Giro and everything else is, or Erasehead and everything else is rubbish, right? And maybe that is true from a competitive standpoint. But you take a step away and ignore that stuff, and it's just like, wow, what am I going to play at locals and have fun with and can win with at locals? There is a huge list there, right? There is so much to play there. Like, there's very few that I would say, yeah, you can't even win with this at locals. And that's the list of. So that's one of our plans from our locals. One of our locals events we want to do soon is we're going to put into a pot a couple of names of just terrible characters, draw them, and then we have to make a deck with that said terrible character.
That's really
cool. The likes of like Gunhead, Backdraft, Gran Torino, just the bad ones. Mina 2,
Minato 1.
I think Minato 1 isn't that. We're talking. We want bottom of the barrel here. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Bottom of the barrel.
So, great chat, you guys. We're gonna move to start wrapping up, and the way that we wrap it up recently is with the draft. And unfortunately, season 2 draft is over. We have the lovely winner in chat here with us here. Let's go on to the new national draft, which everyone's taking part with. So, new national draft, we had Adam, David, Charles, Andrew, Tim, Jacob, Richard, Keenan, and Tam all taking part. The names are all a bit longer than usual, so I've had to just abbreviate it down to the beginning letters. So, Adam came in with a lovely, cheeky little 7 points, thanks to some hero. Yeah, some
Mr. Pendragon.
Some hero midnight coming in and saving the day. David took in a cheeky 5 points with Mirio 1 getting into the top 4. I think Adam's points might be wrong.
No.
Oh, it's
my maths are not wrong, Brett. Do not doubt them.
No, it's I'm just being an idiot. Charles comes in with 7 points thanks to the lovely Overhaul getting second. Andrew stealing the show with both points for Jiro and Shigaraki 1 hitting double digits first. Tim had some amazing choices, some very close decks getting into the top cuts, but unfortunately gets no points. Jacob walks away with 9 points due to Eraser 1 winning the event.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
I couldn't get my Tokoyami pick into the top cuts, and Gary let me down on Tarbe getting into top cuts. So,
sorry, mate.
I got a big fat L this event.
Tam had some great choices. Mimic came really close. Unfortunately, I stopped Mimic getting there. And Keenan comes in with a cheeky little 4 points on the Amajiki 1. I don't think we really had many Denkies or Toyas floating around.
No.
But
And again, it's sort of, I mean, if you look at the results and like the bonus points people are getting, right, it's just like Andrew, I think, was the only one that got, Andrew and Adam were the only ones that got anything outside of round one, right? That hit, and that goes back to what we talked about in the draft and the kind of actual competitive diversity of the format. Like this, again, there's plenty to play at locals, but if you want to win an event,
we have got Oceania coming up, which is a much wilder format. We also have the community draft. We have 25 people taking part here. If we cut over to the community draft, we'll see all 25 names here. And we have the top few players. We've got Nicholas Reagan, definitely a bot, at the top with the 6 points, tied with Claxo, Crossfate, Blair, and Omar. True Nathan, Zach Paisley, Scott Blur, Nivram, Dax Shadow, and Electrocar. Then we have Thomas Horrocks and Kobe Cram, both on 8 points. Then we've got TGB Wood coming in with the 11 points, and Robbie Gregg coming in on 14 points with the Overhaul, Midnight, and Shigaraki 1 picks, all playing dividends very early on. I think the only person from the DMS regular picks he didn't choose was himself. Because I was looking at his list and he's So this is our community list. I was hopefully trying to get this up line and running, but thanks to big shout out to Chris Phillips, my friend C Minion. The sheet wasn't working properly because all I have to do on this sheet is I enter in the character's name and the position that they got, and it automatically updates the points and adds them all up for me. So it's really cool.
Nice.
So we'll keep
okay,
this.
Guys. I think we'll probably start to wrap it up. We'll sort of wrap it up there. Thanks for joining, Harry and Gary. Obviously, any sort of final words from you guys? Sort of, obviously, if you want to plug the shop, maybe encourage more people to come and join and stuff like that. Sort of take it away.
Yeah, sure. So as some of you may or may not know, I run the board game cafe in Hastings, and board gaming is sort of my main passion. I sort of fell out of love with CCGs when the Magic community became really toxic, probably about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So my love for CCGs kind of dropped down, and I just heavily went into board games. So my passion for board games, quit my job, set up a shop about a year ago, met Richard at a local board game group, and a few months ago he got me into My Hero. I've always loved fighting games, like console games and things like that, and it was just kind of that crossbreed of sort of a board game and the console sort of game of Street Fighters and things. So I had a big passion. So since then, obviously, I've been buying a lot of My Hero stuff for the shop. Been working with Richard to like get a community growing, get some like sort of fun events going, doing tournaments and stuff like that. Richard's obviously been leading the way, so hence it says Padawan of Richard, because he's kind of like our god in the local community, really. He's done a lot to help us. He's helped us with cards and stuff like that. So yeah, if anyone is listening and is ever down south, come into shop. Happy to sort of promote anything or help you, or if anyone needs me to order anything for you guys, obviously I have the back end sort of leg to that as well. Just let me know.
Thank you
for helping on the stream.
That's south, sort of east mid. East mid. If you come to the southwest, there's nothing. We're dead here.
Southeast, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so southeast in Hastings. So on the southeast coast. So if anyone knows southeast, Brighton, Eastbourne, Hastings, those sort of areas.
Because I was talking with a couple of people that are going to Cardiff and Bristol University, and it's like, I can't find a single place to play. I was like, add me on Discord, I'll introduce you to the people that run the events in Wales. But southwest of England, we've got nothing. I'm going to try and get out to you guys in December, if the card does okay in its MLT, for the Brandon Trigg Winner Box big event.
Yeah, that's a bit further. That's down in my hometown of Folkestone.
Yeah.
Well, my old hometown, I guess. Well, I was born there.
But yeah, great having you on, Gaz. Great having you on, Harry. I think that's kind of it. Great. Thanks to everyone who took part in Nationals. Big shout out to the lovely dancing Michael Murray here on the stream. If anybody wants a copy of this gift, just hit me up, message. I will happily send it to you. Make sure that you use it irresponsibly.
And obviously, final shout out to the usual hero of everything, Sean.
Yeah.
And Patriot for hosting a great event as always.
And I hope he enjoys his giant Asui card. It was a huge plan by the community, spearheaded by Mike Hardiman and Apple and everybody, to make sure whoever got that card, we got hold of it and that it made its way to Sean. And I made sure that any Asui player I know who wanted it was like, no, please don't go for it. Make sure that ends up in Sean's hands, because Sean is the pillar of the community. This game would not be anywhere near where it was without Sean. Nationals was supposed to be in Europe. The second hour league was supposed to be in Europe. Sean has jumped in last minute many times to go, no, these events will be happening. We will make them happen. And he has pushed himself, the store, and everyone in Sheffield to make sure these events are memorable. And we can, I as I said in my Facebook post, I can only aspire to have a TO and a store and a community half as good as what Sheffield has where I am.
Yeah, from a new player perspective as well, Sean was fantastic, and so was Murray. They both helped me so much at regionals and nationals, and even Harry, who was spectating all of the day. Sean did a favour for Harry by giving him a couple of promos, because he spent all day just helping out, doing drinks, just sort of just mixing with the staff really. Yeah, they're both lovely people and really welcoming.
So yeah, it was things he didn't have to do, but did it because he's a nice guy.
Oh yeah,
and I think it just gives obviously Patriot a great name, but also the card game. So yeah, big up to those guys.
So the last thing I will touch on before moving to the end screen, before raiding over to someone else, is for those who are not aware, for the 12 people still listening, we are still missing a few promos. For those, so there is a new New York Comic Con is coming up, and there will be a new OVA for My Hero Academia displayed there. For those of you who do not know what the animes are or don't care, OVAs are non-canon episodes which are used to highlight the show and sort of like give people some content before the next season. In the OVA, they're playing a card game. Very clear. A card game, not our card game. As a tie-in, UVS is making character cards in the art style of the OVA. Now, UFS announced that every single Nationals participant will be getting some of these promos. The issue is, we did not. The issue is our Nationals happened before New York Comic Con, and there's no way that UVS can guarantee to New York Comic Con that we will not share the images of these cards before New York Comic Con has its event. So
yeah, we won't have anything to do with New York Comic Con. It will have everything to do with Crunchyroll or whoever the hell owns it, right?
But yeah, they don't want the cards getting leaked. They don't want the cards. They don't want the art getting out there before the actual events happened. But I was assured by Matt that the cards are at Patriot. The cards are there. They're sealed. They're safe. And once New York Comic Con is over, they will be securely shipped out to every single person who took part in the Nationals event. It would have been great for Sean to announce it, but he had a hell of a weekend, and he legitimately forgot about diversity until I reminded him that he needed to give an extra promo out to the people that talked to that were the best with their character as well. He had a lot going on, and there was so much extra being put on top of that. But he did an absolute great job, and so did the judging staff. But I'm going to rest a lot. I'm going to be a lot more secure knowing that Monomer's going to be locked up back in jail while Squire goes back to judging next year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wrap it up there, guys. Say thanks so much for joining us. Thanks everyone in chat. Obviously, if you watch on YouTube, thank you very much. Obviously, just sort of, I guess, from a channel perspective, we'd love to be able to get things like reveals and maybe some box openings, that sort of thing, and just maybe have a bit more of a better relationship with UBS Games and get us some names out there. So, you know, click the like, subscribe buttons, all that stuff. It really helps just those numbers and makes us look like we're bigger, right?
Exactly.
And just get those viewer numbers up. So, but yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and we will catch you next time.
Right. Bye.
See ya. Bye.